Hello and welcome to Season 5, Episode 12 of the Voiro Podcast. With me today is co-founder and chief architect of Voiro, Anil. Good morning, Anil.
Morning, Anand.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to have you stand in today for this episode of the podcast. Before we jump into the topic, one of the things that Kavita and I do every time is we start off by asking each other what you're watching lately. Given that content is very core to our industry, so I will ask you the same question. What are you watching these days? Any shows, any movies, any videos? What's on your plate?
So, since it's the new year, what I've been watching is all the YouTube videos that either the rewind or the top things of 2023 in various things like tech and movies, the top movies of 2023, top tech of 2023, top scientific discoveries of 2023.
Are there any favorites? Either favorite scientific discoveries or favorite videos?
Yes. So I was watching this. So one of the one of the patterns that I observed was many of the top things of 2023, they are all very incremental in nature, or rather a stepping stone for greater things that are going to come in the next 10 years. One of the obvious examples of this is AI, wherein a lot of progress was made last year. You saw a bunch of companies coming in, but the general consensus among all the experts is that that was a very, very basic first step. And while it was a huge step, we're going to see a lot of improvements in the next 10 years, and the world is going to change a lot because of what was done in 2023. Very similar things in other fields like science. One of the most important things that stood out was all the photos that were sent back by the James Webb Telescope. The telescope itself was launched in 2022, but started becoming active in 2023. And the discoveries that were made by the James Webb Telescope will have huge repercussions in the next 10 years. And it's still just warming up. So we're going to see many things in that direction. There was also some the tech that has come out, right? In terms of renewables, in terms of the hardware-related improvements for AI. All these are going to see a lot of improvements in the next 10 years. But I think 2023 was kind of a stepping stone for many of these things. That's the general flavor of all these videos.
Yeah, I think you stumbled across the more positive 2023 recap videos, because I saw the ones by Vox and The Guardian and a bunch of them, and they were all doom and gloom to a point where I was like, man, I put it aside and like watched some Seinfeld for some time because I had to not go down that rabbit hole. Before we jump into today's topic on this, I have a fun question for you. Given all these discoveries, where do you rank the Cybertruck compared to all the technological good news that came out of 2023?
So Cybertruck is again following the same trend I mentioned earlier, right? It's like kind of a stepping stone. And while it's a very outlandish looking vehicle, I think what is interesting about the Cybertruck is the changes in the fundamental way a car behaves. One of the things, of course, is the fact that Tesla has managed to make an efficient brick of a vehicle. Trucks are not necessarily the most aerodynamic of shapes, but Tesla has done a very good job with that. Efficiency still matters for trucks. Like if you compare the Hummer EV and the Tesla Cybertruck, you realize how much more efficient the Tesla Cybertruck is. Apart from that, of course, they have introduced drive-by-wire, steer-by-wire, which was not something that was there in any car till now. And that's again because Tesla.
Was it in any vehicle at all, steer-by-wire?
I mean, it's been in aircrafts for like ages.
Okay, of course,
but not on road.
So it is a reliable technology, independent.
Yes, it is a reliable technology, and the only reason it was not done was because, at least according to the videos that I saw, was because of people being adamant and not willing to change away from a 12-volt secondary battery. All cars have 12-volt batteries, and that basically reduces the amount of current that you could draw from these batteries. Tesla has taken the bold step of moving towards a 48-volt architecture, because of which they can power more power-hungry devices like a motor that can steer your...
And they didn't need to do this. They already had a million pre-orders.
Yes. They didn't need to do... Exactly. They didn't need to do this. That vehicle was already outlandish. You don't need more innovation to make it make it more appealing. But they did it regardless. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that little science corner. And speaking of innovation, we wanted to table today our favorite predictions for the year 2024 in the world of media tech, MarTech, AdTech, MadTech, whatever your favorite phrase is. And I know we each came with our lists of 3 and realized that 2 are common. So let's break this into a 2+1 segment. The first one, which actually is not a prediction anymore, is Google turning off cookies for 1% of Chrome users, which they have actually announced within week 1 of the year. So not really a prediction, but I wanted to ask you to give us a primer. I mean, it is our favorite prediction, because it's been a long time coming and everyone's been sort of teasing it for like 2 years now. And of course, Google has shamelessly been pushing the date without any hint of an apology or regret for very strategic reasons. But while we have talked at length on this podcast about the implications, the new technologies that will emerge, what it could lead to, I was wondering if we could take a step back, given we have you today on the podcast. I remember a couple of years ago, you walking the team through the history of third-party, first-party cookies and the sheer beauty that exists in them that is basically going to die away. Would you mind giving us that primer?
Yeah. So firstly, cookies are not a technology that was made for advertising. It was a way in which websites could leave small bits of data in a secure manner in your computer locally, so that when you load different parts of that same website, they can read from those cookies in a secure manner. So if you log into a page, this is not how websites today work, but if you log into a page, it'll you type in the username and password, and the website writes something in a cookie, and the next you go to another page which is not the which requires a login, right? It can just refer to that cookie to ensure that this person is actually logged into the page and gives you access to that other page. That's where it kind of started. The website could leave, traces of, write small bits of data into the browser, and the browsers basically ensure that only that website can access the cookie that the website has left. That's where it started, and of course this got extended to third-party cookies. What I talked about was first-party cookies. When you talk about third-party cookies, it's when different websites can read right into the same cookie. This basically enabled you to track what this person has been seeing or browsing over a period of time.
But why was all this required to begin with? Why do you have to store something locally at all?
Okay, so if you didn't do that, so let's talk about say a Google Doc, right? This is not how Google Docs work today, but I'm just for let's take a simpler thing, right? Like say weather, right? So weather, it wants to give you, assume that there was no geolocation at that point. If you wanted to open the website and it has to come to Bangalore, right? We are in Bangalore. You want to come to Bangalore. How does a website know that you're in Bangalore if it didn't have access to your IP? So you would have to mention that my location is Bangalore, and instead of it asking you every time that the location is Bangalore, it can write it into a cookie saying that this person, against the browser, it will locally store that your location is Bangalore. So the next time the website comes up, it'll read the cookie to see where the location is, and it'll say that, okay, I'll just show this person Bangalore, because against the cookie that I have written, the location is mentioned as Bangalore. So, that's a very basic reason to store something locally. This basically kind of extends to whether the person is signed in or not, what is the username, all these actually sensitive information, right? That's where it started off. And it moved on to things like interests, things like if you want to show ads, you want to know what this person is interested in. Earlier, before cookies, you would just have contextual ads, right? Like you'll just say that this person is browsing a tech article, show him some tech ads. This person is browsing an article on AI, showing some AI ads. But people started thinking that, people have other interests too. Just because I'm browsing an AI article doesn't mean that I'm not interested in sofas. So show him a sofa ad. But how do you know this person is interested in sofas? You see what else this person has accessed or which e-commerce website this person has accessed. That's where third-party cookies came into play, wherein multiple websites can read and write into the same cookie, and you can you can get a view of what this person is interested in and show him relevant ads, track the user's behavior, target him on platforms other than websites. All these rather intrusive methods of figuring out what this person would, how to make money out of this person. That's where we are today. Or maybe where we were like 1 year back or 2 years back, where now almost 50% of browser traffic is moved away from third-party cookies, and we don't use third-party cookies on your mobile apps. It's all more first-party kind of targeting. Yeah.
So where do you think we're going to go now, given the fact that this is going to get deprecated? Is it even a big deal? Because Chrome is, as far as I understand, the only one left. The other browsers have already done it.
Chrome is a big deal. I think maybe 40-50% of the internet browser traffic comes from Chrome. So Chrome is definitely a big deal. And I know that Google has taken the first step, but it's still only 1%. They have been kind of slow at rolling this out. Unless they roll out like 50%, I still would not want to call it, because it's been a rather slow death for the cookie.
So is your prediction that they will get there this year, or?
I don't think I think they're going to drag it for a little longer, because I don't think the advertisers are prepared for this yet. One of the things that is the replacement for this is good first-party data, which I don't think the advertisers have it yet. So everyone is preparing for it. Like first-party data gathering and first-party data targeting is something that people are gearing up for, but it's still probably not up to the mark. And people don't want to see irrelevant ads either, right? That's just wasted ad dollars. So it's going to be slow. It will happen. It's kind of happening at this point, I think, finally. But I don't know. I would still say that it will take some more time.
Yeah. Moving on to the second, I was reading Evan Shapiro's typically very tongue-in-cheek newsletter. And he, of course, was called out for the fact that in his first tranche of predictions, he didn't mention the word AI. And so he had to issue a correction where he said, yeah, because everybody's mentioning it anyway. But I've seen this tabled on at least 3 or 4 different prediction lists, which is not AI itself, but the fact that there will be an inundation of AI tools in our ecosystem. And also B, there will be a very measurable impact of AI, which is something that I found interesting. I was reading Fred Wilson's broader newsletter on 2024 in technology, which he writes every year, where his belief is that this is the year where all the innovations in AI from last year have to start translating into some measurable revenue impact. And the fact that last year was the tip of the iceberg of about 40 years of innovation. It's not that generative AI was invented last year. It's been around for 40 years if you paid attention. But closer to our industry, and I think the timing of this in light of Google turning off cookies, is I think AI will impact our industry in 2 ways. One, which we've talked about many times on the podcast, which is creative. The creative industry, the creative supply chain, the complete possible automation of creative generation, both static as well as dynamic. I mean, saw Midjourney V6 and the fact that it's magical. It's markedly improved from the earlier versions of Midjourney, which would generate images of people with like 7 fingers and things like that. But for me, 1 is creative. And 2 is, I think AI will also help make contextual ads far better. Because it has the ability now to understand context far better and not just read words for what they are. Right? I mean, some of the famous examples are if there is a Coca-Cola ad against a news article, and the news article is about an accident, typically they said, oh, Coca-Cola doesn't want to show themselves against negative news. But now there is a way to understand the context behind that news and change the context of the creative itself. So I think AI is going to play a big role in both contextual advertising as well as creative. What's your take on what AI can do this year for us?
So I think, one of the, from the articles that we read before this podcast, I think one of the statements that stood out for me was AI is a marathon, not a hackathon. I think last year was kind of in a hackathon mode. I think we're going to enter the marathon phase now. We're going to see a lot of incremental improvements. Like you said, creative, I think I would like to call it low effort creativity. Disruption is clearly the first thing that AI is going to cause, and it's already caused, right? Low effort creativity is going to be hugely disrupted. Like people are going to be thrown out of that. AI is going to take over all kind of creativity that doesn't require too much of effort. That's obviously the thing. But I have a feeling that one of the more than what AI will do, I think related to AI, one of the things that will really come up this year is all the companies and the services that are going to kind of start figuring out whether something is AI or not. I think this is going to be a year with couple of serious elections in big democracies. We are entering dangerous territory, right? And especially with regards to ads, I have a feeling that there's a huge opportunity, or probably there are already companies that are working towards verifying or figuring out whether something is AI. An AI to figure out whether something is AI, I don't know. I mean,
No, I think it's important. Kavita and I talked about this 2 episodes ago. Specifically talked about the fact that we have 2 landmark elections this year. There are, I think, north of 70 federal elections this year across the world. It's the highest ever in a single calendar year. But there are 2 big ones, India and the US. I definitely believe these are 2 elections that will possibly be the most landmark elections in terms of defining the future of human civilization. That's literally what I'm thinking. Because for the next 10 years, these are the governments that have to tackle climate change. They have to tackle global geopolitical issues stemming from wars. They have to tackle protectionist regimes that are now becoming more popular across the world and sort of deglobalization. There's a lot that's going to be in the hands of these 2 governments. And so I think they are very important. But like I said the other day, the 2016 election was blamed on Facebook. The 2020 election was based on Twitter. This one's going to be AI for me. And so I hope we get around to this technology in time for these 2 elections. Because otherwise you're going to have a lot of ads driven by fakes, which can influence the elections in possibly unfortunate manners. Yeah.
So, I mean, my belief is that there's huge opportunity there. But, I mean, to answer the first part of your question, what exactly AI will do, I think this year I rather hope more than think. A little more than, I've been seeing a lot of scientific applications to AI in the field of biology and medicine especially. And I think we might start seeing more serious use cases this year, apart from just creativity. I'm not saying creativity is not serious, but probably more on the technology front, right? Like you said, figuring out the context, things like that. I think a little more in-depth use cases are going to start emerging this year. I think that's what.
Percent. Now we have a favorite prediction, which we have different ones. So the one I have is I was reading DigiDay's list of anti-predictions, which I thought was interesting because last year there was so much hype about these 4 things that they're basically saying will not happen. The first one is they're saying Netflix will not gobble up TV dollars, right? The pricing is too much. The platform is a different underlying audience fabric. And last year, the minute everyone announced that Netflix was going to go the ads route, a big part of the narrative that came around was around them eating up TV dollars instead of digital dollars. And I agree with DigiDay. I think that's not going to happen. Netflix will chart their own path, much like any of these large predictions. Second one, retail media will not start and end with Amazon, which I think is true. Historically, they have been the largest chunk of the retail media pie. But I believe that's going to change. We talked about this a couple of episodes ago around Flipkart's numbers that were made public on, I think it was a Morning Context article, if I'm not mistaken. And those are significant numbers, right? So Amazon is not going to be the dominant. They might still be number 1, but I don't think they will dominate as much as they have. And the last one is big advertisers will not return to Twitter, which I think is part of Elon's strategy. I know he does it in his own, sometimes crude fashion, but that's him. Someone gifted me, my friends Ani and Preeti gifted me his biography by Walter Isaacson. And on the first page, he said, I'm taking people to Mars and I'm saving civilization. Don't expect me to be like bubbly and nice or something like that, which is exactly his personality. He's consistent about it. But I don't think he cares much for big advertisers. He wants the long tail. He wants this to be something.
He wants the Saudi ads.
Yeah. But I like the 3 anti-predictions by DigiDay. What is the third prediction you have that's different?
So other things which I mean, one of the predictions which I saw, I mean, I picked it up because it kind of rings with what I keep saying is bundling.
Of course, yeah.
So
You've said this for years.
Yeah.
Somebody please bundle this.
Yeah, bundling. So I feel that the current digital media space is kind of messed up, especially the paid media space. And I think it's happening. Like there are a lot of bundles we can see. I mean, in the US and in India also. I hope that it'll gather some more steam. I mean, India with Reliance, Jio, they are bundling a lot of things. Like if you have Jio connections at home and the Jio app, most of the content comes through that. Airtel is also trying to do that, but I mean, Jio is doing it at a much larger scale. You can see similar things in the US also. And with a bunch of mergers that are lined up in this year for India at least, I mean, the bundling is going to happen automatically, regardless of whether there's any technology behind it. So I think that's going to be a big kind of pattern that we're going to see. And this will really help users because right now it's a mess. I mean, so many different subscriptions, so many paywalls. I mean, talking about bundling, I really hope there's some consolidation on the non-video front also. Things like, games and comics and newspapers. It's a mess. The number of subscriptions that you have to actually pay for is painful. A huge opportunity for any tech that can be built around this. I really wish we had something in that space. Yeah,
I agree.
And seeing that in the list of trends in the hopeful trends in this year, I'm happy.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Jeff Bezos was on a podcast recently, I think for the first time in his life, a long form podcast, the Lex Friedman podcast, which is really nice. I highly recommend it. Where I think towards the end of the podcast, Lex Friedman says, how far into the future are you thinking? I love these kind of questions from Lex. He said, what's the most outlandish scenario that is on your mind that kind of drives your thought? And he said, a human population of 1 trillion that is interplanetary and therefore building towards that future. And I was like, man, that is really far out to think about. I was trying to think about a similar view of...
It's very similar to bundling.
Very similar to bundling. But I was trying to think about content and try to stretch my imagination. And it's obviously not gone as far as interplanetary species of 1 trillion human beings. But I was thinking, content should be like music to me. The minute it's available or ready to be watched, I should not have to, if there's a song that I want to listen to today, I don't have to worry about whether it's on Spotify or Apple Music or in some cases neither, and I have to buy a CD. The industry has solved for it. Right? It's everywhere, and everywhere I go, there are different business models that I can choose from. I can choose ad supported, ad free, ad this, ad that, or I can buy a song, an individual, whatever the case might be. Right? I think that's how movies should be. That's how TV shows should be. Right now, there's still older movies that sometimes I think about and I want to watch, and I realize it's nowhere, and that's it.
Yeah.
There's no way to. I don't think that needs to be the case, right? So for me, with bundling, this is the future that I want. It's just available everywhere. Also, consumer behavior is moving, right? We are moving away from these apps to potentially like Vision OS or Vision goggles. We're moving to different touch points. So it's about time that all of the content is available wherever I want, whenever I want, with business models that just work. And I'm hoping we get there. It should become like music. I don't have to worry or think it's there. I don't think there's a song you cannot find today.
Yeah, I think the music industry kind of separated content from the platform. I mean, it's there on different there are different platforms. It's not like there are no different platforms, but I mean, similar to podcasts for that matter, right? You can publish the same content on different platforms, whereas with video and even newspaper articles, content is like attached to the platform. Difficult.
So yes, so content is attached to the platform. There are historic distribution channels that are still not. Like you have to go theater first and please the distributors and then do that for X number of days or they get upset. There's a lot. Like no one's saying this song will only be in concerts first and then you can listen to it. No one's doing that. You drop a song, you all got it.
But I mean, the Gen Z content kind of transcends, right? Like if they're on TikTok, if they're on Instagram, if they're on YouTube. Maybe that's what.
Maybe that's what it is. I want that for all history. Yeah. And available on Mars so that Jeff Bezos' view is also in line with this. or whatever it is. Yeah,
The what do you have?
that's it.
Okay, so I mean, I have a few other points which I would like. Few other points which I found interesting. One is, of course, reducing ad wastage. I think with first-party data becoming more important, hope to see less ad wastage. There were some points about how marketers are still not being truthful. There's a lot of money left on the table, those kind of things. I think there's a gradual improvement, but with AI coming in, I think there will be more focus on this, being more efficient with your ad dollars. 2024 is also going to be a very crucial year wherein the spending will kind of depend a lot on the markets. Because if you look at the world, what has happened in the last year and the last 2 years, right? There are two major wars actively going on. Big elections are coming in, and I think a lot of the technology that's going to people are going to be conservative, and the technology is going to kind of help in that, being conservative with the ad spends. And I think being smart with your ad spend is going to be important. There is definitely some kind of apprehension, even in India, right? Even though our markets have been kind of booming, people don't know how long it's going to boom, regardless of what the election results will be. So people are going to try to be conservative and be smart about it. And I think it's a good time to be smart about it, because you have only X amount of money, and if people are not going to spend too much, you have to be smart about it. And you have the tools today. AI is a tool that's come in. You have to make use of these tools and kind of start being efficient with your ad dollars. And I think that's going to be another industry where, another part of the industry which is going to be significant. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anil, for joining me today. And thank you as always to Gautam, Deena, and Santosh.
Thank you, Anand, for hosting.
Yeah, of course. Happy to do it. Missed Kavita on this episode, but we should have her back for the next one. And until next time, thank you everybody for listening.